Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Saturday, May 10th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far today. This is episode 539 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. For those tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. Of course, appreciate all of those tuning in on all the different audio podcast platforms. And today we are recapping day number 2 of New York Jets rookie minicamp. As always, though, before we begin, we got to tell you about our podcast partners, starting with our friends over at BetUS, America's favorite online sportsbook. NBA and NHL playoff second round are in full swing. If you want to get in on any of the playoff sports betting action, check out BetUS. Use my link in the description of this video to get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. Also, our friends over at SeatGeek, if you're looking to get the best tickets for playoff hockey or playoff basketball or baseball season, which of course is in full swing. Subway Series just a week away. Check out SeatGeek, and if it's your first time using SeatGeek, use promo code BUBSONSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase and get yourself out to some awesome events. And of course, our friends over at Huga House, if you want any of their awesome selection of hats and sweatshirts, check them out. Use code BUBS for 15% off any purchase and get yourself some awesome Huga House merch. So here we go, episode 539. Thank you as always for tuning in. Yesterday we discussed all things, our biggest takeaway from day 1 of New York Jets rookie minicamp, and today we are recapping all things that took place today in day number 2 of New York Jets rookie minicamp. And today, Aaron Glenn spoke to the media. We'll discuss that first here. Here was Aaron Glenn on what he told the rookies and his thoughts on rookie minicamp here. First time, of course, as a head coach.
Good. Well, it felt good being being on the grass and being inside and being in meetings for a while. And I'm going to tell you guys exactly somewhat of what I told the players on the first day. Here's what we had. We had about 10 guys that was part of this camp who's actually been a part of our program already, like about 5 weeks of the phase that we have. 7 draft picks, 15 undrafted free agents, and I think we had about 12 trial guys. So, man, we had guys from like major Division I programs, some guys from 1AA. We had some guys from HBCUs. And I told those guys that it really doesn't matter like where you from, even what you did. The thing is, they all done a great job to get in the building. And once you get in the building, you have a shot. Once you get in the building, you have a shot. So I thought it was important for them to understand that. I thought it was important for them to understand the direction of what we're trying to do in this camp, that it wasn't a true physical camp, but there were 3 things I was trying to get out of those guys. What I want to know is, can they learn? 1, 2, are they coachable? And 3, can they play special teams? And I think a lot of those guys answered those questions. So that was my message to those guys, and I thought those guys did a really good job. So any questions?
So that was Glenn's opening statement on, of course, rookie minicamp and what he told those guys coming in this weekend. A couple of takeaways I want to discuss there. Number 1, this also just kind of goes along the lines of what Glenn has preached since the moment he has taken over the reins here for the New York Jets, and that is competition. right? He mentioned it there. It doesn't matter whether you're coming from a Division I program, an FBS school, FCS school. Doesn't matter if you're, UDFA. Doesn't matter if you're a power conference. Doesn't matter. He mentioned HBCUs. It doesn't, whatever. Just the mini camp invite, whatever. They're taking a look at everybody, and he wants competition. And that's what he's preached this entire time. He has mentioned it many times about the depth chart being written in pencil, how things can change. Guys are going to compete. If this coaching staff views certain players differently than previous regime did, you could see changes. You could see surprises. You could see guys that are going to come in, compete. If they play better, they're going to get playing time. They're going to earn their playing time. And that was kind of just the message there, right? It doesn't matter where you're from, how you got here. You got a chance to compete. You got a chance to come in and make an impact and try and make yourself known as you enter through the rest of this offseason here, and potentially some of these guys getting an opportunity to battle it out during training camp. I'll also throw this out there as well. He mentioned those three things. Can you be coachable? Can you, be taught? And also special teams. This is something that Glenn also talked about a little bit more in his press conference as it went on. They really value guys with special teams upside. They really do. He talked about his previous stops in New Orleans and Detroit, how much they value special teams, even mentioned to the point with Detroit where they ran a lot of fakes, of course, something that you could potentially see the New York Jets use a lot of. So something else I thought was interesting to take away. They want to see a lot of these rookies. They want to see even just some of these guys on the roster. If you have a role on special teams, if you can play special teams, there's a good chance you're going to find a way to get on this team and play a role there in some capacity. So those were Glenn's first comments. I also wanted to throw this up here on the screen, not really talking about the rookies, but the veterans and the so far the turnout through phase 1 and phase 2 of the offseason. Glenn really happy with what he's seen.
Listen, outstanding. I think those guys have done a hell of a job of understanding what we're trying to create. I think we had over 90% in phase 1, and going into phase 2, we're up to about 94%. So I give those guys a lot of credit of understanding like what we're trying to create and just buying in to what we're selling. And when you get a new regime, that's the one thing you want to make sure you do. Just get the trust of the players. And I do believe with every part of me that these guys know exactly what we're trying to do. And the thing is, my verbiage has been very simple from the beginning. And as it goes to phase 3, the verbiage is going to change because we're doing things different. Because now we're really on the field. There's some competitive moments out there. And then exactly how I see the identity of the team going forward, because we're on the grass at that point.
What is it?
I thought that was a really positive development. Phase 1, 90% veteran turnout. And he also mentioned there phase 2, 94% veteran turnout. Phase 3 will be coming up here in about a week and a half or so when OTAs begin later on in May. But that's a big positive, right? This is an organization, of course, overturning with change. And for these veterans and for these other players, for this locker room, you want guys to be here throughout the offseason. You want guys learning about Glenn, getting to understand Glenn and his philosophies, like he said, buying in to what they are selling, building that culture. This part of the offseason is really important when you have a new regime, and it's good to see a very high turnout and potentially even more once phase 3 begins. And then, of course, you'll have your mandatory minicamp in June. So about a month from now, you'll see that take place eventually before, that 40-day period between the off-season stuff and training camp eventually beginning. But a really positive element. You want players to start to understand this culture, help build this culture, understand what Glenn's all about, his philosophy, the rest of his coaching staff. So certainly thought that was a positive there from Glenn, seeing the turnout. Also wanted to throw this clip up here. Glenn continuing to talk about Justin Fields and his quiet confidence. Really believes in him.
There's a quiet confidence about that man that's unshakable. And even though that he's not the most vocal person, he's active with his body language. He's active with his one-on-one conversations. If he has to stand in front of the guys and say something, he will. He will. He's not one of those guys going to talk just to talk, because sometimes if you do that, players around you can get deadhead. But he says things when it needs to be said. He's a really good athlete. He works his butt off in the weight room. He's another guy that he's doing everything he can to improve. And whatever advantage he can get from coaching, strength and conditioning, being on the field, he's going to get that. He's going to take that advantage, and he's going to run with it. So I'm very happy where he's at. I'm very happy with actually all the quarterbacks that we have in this program right now. And I know they're going to push each other to be better.
Glenn has talked about Fields a lot in terms of the quiet confidence that he brings. This isn't the first time he's used that phrase to describe Fields. If you go back to the annual NFL League meetings down in Florida, he spoke about Fields' quiet confidence. That, of course, was shortly after they signed him after free agency. He spoke about it, and now again is talking about it. Look, it's clear the New York Jets, and obviously they have some sort of belief in him, but I think they have a even greater belief in him than what many expect, in terms of the fact of, they gave him a decent amount of money, not a crazy amount, but when you look at the contract, 2 years, of course, $40 million, they gave him a decent chunk of money, and they have already said, he is the starter. They have made that pretty clear. It was not bring Fields in and have him compete with Tyrod. It was, we really see something in Fields. They really believe that Tanner Engstrand and the rest of this offensive staff can get more out of him, and he could be a long-term fit for this team where he can be your next Mayfield. He can be your next Darnold. And having that quiet confidence is something that Glenn, of course, feels important, something Glenn has noticed about him. And they have a lot of confidence in Justin Fields. They truly feel that he can be a guy that comes in here and what is going to be his last opportunity. If this does not work out with the Jets, it's over for Fields. He's just going to be a glorified backup wherever else he goes. This is his third destination, his third opportunity at starting. If it doesn't work out, it's over. And he's got a year to do it. He's got a year to prove it, and we'll see what happens. But certainly a lot of confidence and a lot of belief from this coaching staff. I want to throw this last clip up here, then we'll get to some comments from some other rookies. This was Glenn on Arian Smith. Really impressed by his speed, and also a little bit about what he's seen from Mason Taylor.
It's only they're running around in shorts with no pads, but a couple of pass-catching guys with Mason and Arian Smith. With any instant takeaways from those two guys?
Listen, Aaron has some juice, don't he? God, he can run, and he's bouncy, and he's a really good athlete. And I thought the first day he went out there and he was really focused on making sure that I see through the ball and make sure I could bring it in. I think he did a good job yesterday catching the ball. Mason is exactly who we thought he was. He has dynamic movements. He can really catch the ball. He do a good job catching the ball away from his body. He's quick to bring it in and get north and south, exactly like we want, which we call knifing. So listen, I'm happy with both of those men, and there's a clear vision of how we're going to utilize those guys, and I'm glad they're on our team.
So that was Glenn on Smith and Taylor. He also went on to discuss more on Membu, which, of course, both Muji and Glenn have talked about Membu a ton since the draft. Their draft press conference after they selected him, being the 7th overall pick, but talked about his nastiness, the footwork, the quickness, the athleticism, getting out in space, the speed, all that stuff that Membu brings to the table. But it's clear the Jets love Arian Smith's speed, and I hope it works out, but he's got a lot of work to do. You guys know where I stand with Arian Smith. You got to hope that, this training camp, even the OTAs, this is huge for him. Become a better route runner, catch the football, be able to break off against those press coverage corners. A lot of things to work on, but the speed is there, and the Jets value that a ton. It's clear they do. And if he can be a speed guy that becomes a more well-rounded receiver in those other areas, it would be awesome. And I hope that's the case. Track star, a lot of other work to do, but the speed, of course, is intriguing, no doubt about it. And it's clear the Jets feel the same way. Glenn also talked just a little bit more, too, about just his previous stops and his previous experience. Dan Campbell talked about him, how at times he was actually, put up in front of the room to kind of talk to the team as a whole, not just the offense, not just the defense, or not just the defense, rather, also the offense, the entire team. They asked him about that, how it was like transitioning from, now running a practice as a head coach, and feels that, of course, he is, fully prepared for this from his time in Detroit and, of course, his previous stops as well. So that was Aaron Glenn today. The biggest takeaways I had from his press conference. Some other rookies spoke today. We'll start here with AZ Thomas. Early impressions. Really likes Aaron Glenn.
Your thoughts on your new head coach?
I love him. He's serious. He's about business. And he loves defense. So,
Now, I want to make this clear. They're all going to, say the right things. But I do think the biggest takeaway so far from this weekend is all of these rookies. And I want to play 2 clips as well from Malachi Moore here in a second, who also spoke today. It is clear the level of attention to detail from this coaching staff. And I know it's only 2 practices, but they're trying their level of teaching, their level of trying to hold players accountable. And it's clear there from AZ Thomas, right? Just said it. Very serious, very, attention to detail. When you do something wrong, they're going to coach you up. You're going to, hear about it. You're going to have to improve on it. If you make a mistake, they're going to talk to you and coach you up. And you saw that yesterday with many of the reporters in attendance talking about how vocal the coaches were. And again today, and I want to play 2 clips here from Malachi Moore, which I think also kind of goes along the line of this coaching staff and some of its potential strengths.
How have those interactions been with Aaron Glenn and some of the rest of the coaches?
Yeah, it's been good. I feel like we got a good coaching staff here. Everybody's they're real demanding when it comes to teaching, and that's one thing I can appreciate and like, because every great player needs to be coached. Everybody, isn't perfect, so for them to come in and hound us on the standard and of how to do things, I love it.
You have a defensive back coaching staff full of guys that have been in the NFL, Aaron Glenn, Chris Harris, Dre Ball.
Right.
How valuable is that for you coming in the league?
Very, very, very valuable. As a rookie, I couldn't think of a better coaching staff to come into when you talk about the level of experience they've had and just them being around the game. So, like I said, I'm just trying to be a sponge, asking them any question that comes to mind and just pick their brain about the game as much as possible.
Again, big takeaway. The attention on just teaching and demanding the teaching aspect. Something that so far early on through these first couple practices, you have seen a lot of, and the rookies even talk about it with this New York Jets, coaching staff, specifically, Aaron Glenn, of course, as well. And especially for those guys in the secondary. And Malachi Moore even just talked about it, but even, goes for the lines too for AZ Thomas. This is a Jets coaching staff that has a lot of former players, right? Of course, it starts with Aaron Glenn, the former Jet, but Dre Bly, who's your assistant DB's coach, he's in the secondary. He's a former player. Of course, Glenn himself. There's a lot of former players now coaches on this team. Even Aaron Curry, your linebackers coach. Even, of course, Dre Blah or Chris Banjo, rather, a special teams coach as well. A lot of former players that can kind of understand what these guys, the shoes they're in, understand the player perspective, and also understand the coaching side of it, which hopefully is something that translates well for this coaching staff once the games really count. Tyler Barron also spoke to the media, felt this camp was very productive. I talked about Barron. He was a guy that yesterday did some good things, had a couple pressures. Kiko Maui Noah also spoke. And in just some practice notes, for those of you who care, I think a lot of people do, Mason Taylor switched his number. He was 46 yesterday, went out there today with number 85. So the Mason Taylor jersey issue is over. That was certainly creating quite the stir amongst the fan base. Had a nice long reception today. And both running backs, only 2 running backs in rookie minicamp, both of them had pretty strong days. Donovan Edwards, again, had a couple nice plays. And Lawrence Toffoli out of FSU, who was a invite, also had a couple nice plays today. Had a nice catch down the sideline. So two of the running backs out there. Donovan Edwards, I talked about it yesterday. He's a name to look for, right? The background, the potential that he had coming out of college didn't quite, or had in college, didn't quite live up to it. Could he be somebody that surprises during camp? Definitely a name to look for. But that's primarily my biggest takeaways. The biggest, of course, being Glenn speaking to the media. Obviously, a lot from that there to take away. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What are your thoughts on day number 2 of New York Jets rookie minicamp? Day number 3 will be tomorrow, so stay tuned. We'll have a lot more content coming your way, of course, into next week as well. Appreciate the support, and until next time, JETS, 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 Jets.